the Francis Crick and the Turing Institutes, prestigious University College London, University College Hospital, the Wellcome Trust, and any number of biotech and AI startups. Lately, this ultra-commutable egghead enclave has stolen the crown from London's other wannabe tech hub, a grimy junction above Old Street Underground cynically nicknamed Silicon Roundabout. Anyway, enter Google, whose grand new edifice is said to have cost somewhere in the region of £1 billion. It's 11 stories high and stretches 330 metres along the King's Cross railway tracks. That's longer than the London's tallest building. The Shard is high, by the way. Many Londoners say this development makes a nice change from all those priapic skyscrapers. The new HQ was designed in a collaboration between Copenhagen's starchitect Bjarke Ingels and King's Cross-based Heatherwick Studios. Heatherwick, who as it happens just completed a lavish £100 million refit of nearby Coldrops Yard shopping centre, is no stranger to Cockney icons. Heatherwick designed the flaming cauldron centrepiece for London's 2012 Olympic Games and the city's curvaceous new-look Routemaster buses. Google's UK HQ, which founder Larry Page commissioned after dismissing another top architect's plans as boring, really is a bit special. There's a large multi-lane upper-story swimming pool, cutting-edge sports facilities, a gym, 4 cafes and a multi-use games area. There's a 210-seat auditorium for product announcements and lectures. The whole structure sits atop a so-called plinth of retail and dining spots intended to, in Heatherwick's words, create variety and fascination at a human scale. On the rooftop, behold a 300-metre landscape garden divided into zones, including a pause area for quiet contemplation. There's shady wooded spots dappled with pastel wildflowers, lily-covered fish ponds, rustic beehives, and a 200-metre running track commanding peerless panoramic views over London. Inside, a dramatic staircase floats diagonally through what Bjarke Ingels describes as a single confident volume akin to King's Cross Station's magnificent multi-arched concourse. All internal routes are easy and flowing and connected in order to inspire opportunities for chance encounters and foster all-important creativity. Fundamentally, of course, it's an office block, so imagine hundreds of people staring at screens and zoning out in meetings. Hey, at least they get nap pods. The very fabric of the building was chosen in line with Google's so-called Healthy Materials program. This initiative traces its origins back to the early days of Google, when a fretful Larry Page would prowl the office with a handheld particle counter measuring air quality and particulates emanating from the walls and floors. Presently, Google runs a handful of offices across London. Famously, its Victoria outpost has beach huts and Dodgem cars, while staff at Google's Covent Garden branch enjoy access to an allotment. This new building, alongside 2 other nearby King's Cross sites being looked at by Google, will unify its UK team on one 7,000-person campus. The centrepiece will be this, the only wholly Google designed and built building outside the US. But hang on a minute, you're probably thinking, don't we all work from home now? At the time of writing, almost all of Google's 118,000 global employees are working in their jammies. CEO Sundar Pichai has signalled he intends this policy to stand until the end of June 2021 at any rate. Because while it's clear the nature of work has probably changed forever, Pichai still has faith in the unique alchemy of in-person collaboration. We firmly believe that being together, having that sense of community is super important for whenever you need to solve hard problems, he told Time magazine. So we don't think the future is 100% remote. We value our offices, we value the culture. Certainly, King's Cross's lunchtime restaurant and bar scene will rejoice when Google's shiny new HQ fills up with well-remunerated young go-getters potentially as soon as next year. Right now, it's still being built. Get a load of those Android logos running up its reinforced concrete core. But ultimately, Google's huge investment in London is a tonic for those Londoners who worry that, since the pandemic, their city has lost its mojo. Well, if anyone can help them find it, what do you think? Are these vast office hulks nothing but dinosaurs from a bygone corporate era? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more hot desking tech content.
Is unmuted. My mic was unmuted. Good morning, everyone. It's so amazing to have you on this call this Friday morning. How is your day coming up? I hope your day has been coming up well, and you are all doing great. Good morning, Adeshola I can see different people joining from different states. Good morning, Juwon from Lagos. Good morning, everyone. And I hope your week has been so productive. Yeah, it's so good to have each and everyone on this call. And I can still see just few number to all the state leads, and even each and everyone on this call. Reach out to your colleagues that are yet on the workshop. Let them know that we have started and they shouldn't miss out of any session this morning. And right away, we are going to be starting. We're going to be starting today's session. I really wish we could just take one or two feedbacks, but time might not permit us to take much feedbacks. We are going to start by taking just two feedbacks, just a male and a female. Tell us how it's been all through this series of this workshop and the training process, things which you've learned. What are the things that has made a difference for you? And what are the new initiatives which you are hoping to bring on board in the course of this program? So if you'd like to say something, you can just raise your hand. I would like to take that before we have a speaker and expert in our house, and he's also a mentor to many, and he's a blessing to this country and to this continent, and even beyond this continent. Thank you, sir, for joining ahead of time. We sincerely appreciate your presence. Okay, I can see Samuel from River State. I assume Samuel is a male, so I'm still expecting one more female to share feedback, how the sessions, how the program has been thus far. Okay, Samuel, you can unmute your mic and speak. Hello, Samuel, if you can hear me. Samuel from River State, you can unmute your mic and speak.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Samuel Otisi. And I must say, this program has been a very insightful one. It has been a very good avenue to reach out to everyone from different states. From last week, the commencement of the program to up to this moment, it has been a very wonderful one. I've learned a lot from circular economy, waste management, recycle operation. And yesterday's insight was also a very good one. Talk about the policy making. So I must say it's a very good opportunity. It's not been that easy combining it with some of our activities, our work schedule, tight business stuff. So it's something that it's worth doing. I must say, I must advise every one of us to keep up to it, because it's going to yield very much, and we're going to enjoy the return. So that's just what I have to say today. So we need to come together and keep up, and then do what we ought to do to the finish line. Thank you very much for this opportunity once again.
Thank you, Samuel from River State. Thank you for that wonderful feedback. And yeah, you can also drop your feedback in the comment section if you want to say something. I can see one hand up just in a minute because we are starting at 9:10 exactly. Farida from Adamawa State, can you unmute your mic and share your feedback in a minute? Farida Haruna. Hello, Farida. Hope you can hear me. We can't hear you clearly.
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now, Farida.
Hello, I can hear you. I say good morning. Okay, good. Last week we have learned a lot. Well, I've been making research on this. Hello, can you hear me?
Can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. I've been making research on this like since 2020. So I thought I have known a lot about it. But from this program,
Farida, we can't hear you again. Okay, we can't hear you again, Farida. Sorry, Farida, you might have to. We appreciate the first part which you had. Hello, Farida. I'm trying. Farida, please, can you mute your mic? Can you mute your mic? We can't hear you at all.
So it's a wonderful program for recycling and a lot of it.
Sorry about that. We can't hear you at all. It's a kind of network issue, but it's a very good one. You've been making research, and this program gave you a vast knowledge and more enlightenment in line to circular economy. And this morning, we are going straight to this session, and I'm so glad to announce that we have an industry expert in our midst this morning, who is going to be leading us in another technical session in line to green building and sustainable construction. You know, earlier when we started this program, we said it's not just focused on plastic, it's not just focused on paper waste, it's not just focused on recycling alone, and it's focused on different sectors. We mentioned 8 different sectors. I hope you can remember the 8 sectors. It might be part of your assessment anyway. And today we are going to be focusing on green buildings and sustainable construction. And this morning we are so blessed to have Dr. N.K.O. Balogun, who has this 25 years of experience in real estate and facility management industry. He's a leader, entrepreneur, a teacher, mentor, and community developer who is very passionate about creating and managing sustainable smart cities and urban redevelopment and renewal projects across Africa. As the group managing director and chief executive officer of Global Property and Facility International Limited, you oversee the strategic direction, operation, growth of the company, which provides integrated real estate services, facility management, and project management solutions to clients in various sectors. Dr. Balogun has published, presented, and trained on various topics related to his field of expertise, such as business ethics, leadership, innovation, and he holds multiple certification and honorary doctorate degree in management from recognized institutions. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We are so glad to have you on this workshop. Good morning, Dr. Balogun.
Morning. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to join you. And delighted with the feedback from your participants and the number of people on the call this morning. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I look forward to having an engaging conversation with you on the topic. Thank you. Yeah, so if you permit me, I can just go ahead and I'll start sharing my screen so that we can start our conversation.
Yes, sir, you can, sir. Okay,
morning, everybody. Yeah, so what we're going to be talking about and the way I'm going to approach it, you have the slide, we're going to have a conversation, and you can drop your questions or comments as we go along so that we can benefit from the conversation. As I said, this is more of a conversation rather than just presentation. The idea is for us to be able to understand some of the concepts that we're going to talk about, also look at how we can internalize and use them as business people. We're going to talk about sustainable construction, green building, today's world, and why sustainable construction techniques, some of the concepts and innovations in sustainable construction. We'll look at case studies of green building, then we can talk about the trends. Now, one of the key things that is important, and I wanted to look at this slide very carefully. In building construction, typically, there are 3, 4, 5 components, major components that go into the construction and building. Materials, the energy used to produce the materials, energy used to do the construction. And when I say energy, energy is everything that goes into from every component of construction. Water, there's no way you can do construction without water. And the investment, which is ultimately where people do construction, people want to invest so that they can get the return. But what do we get out at the end of the day? Every component of construction, and you can take a typical construction close to you, and you see the amount of waste generated. There are emissions in the air, water, and soil, There is hardly any construction. There's even, global companies that do construction. The only thing is that they manage their waste. What the world is thinking about is how do we minimize the waste generated from construction. Noise is hardly any construction that doesn't, lead to noise. So you find people who live close to places where construction is taking place. I remember one of the buildings in Lagos several years ago. One of the prominent Nigerians had to go to the press, even sue the company that they were disturbing his peace in his house because of the construction noise from their building. They were building a bank head office. Social impacts, some can be positive, some can be negative. Some of the negative is underage workers, which is one of the SDG goals to ensure that we don't have people, and you find mostly in our client. I remember one in my estate, somebody was doing renovation in his estate, in his apartment. And I saw two young guys, probably less than 10 years old, working how to call security, called the owner of the property and said, this is not allowed. So these are part of the social impact. Because it's also the positive, because construction is the biggest employer of labor. When the government, previous government was thinking about post-COVID economic rejuvenation, one of the components of action was construction industry, finding ways to rejuvenate construction, and so because it creates jobs, changes of it. So there are both the positive and the negatives, and also the part of negative can also be degradation of the environment, where some of the materials we use from construction, wood, especially, people go into the bushes and knock down woods and use them to do construction. Some of the waste generated from construction are not properly managed, properly disposed. So do you have some of these social impacts? And the financial returns. So investment is always comes to financial returns. Nobody puts money into construction without ensuring that it's going to get a return back. So basically, this is construction. And one of the things to note, and we're going to see it in the next slide, is that what are the things that goes into construction? What are the components of the materials that is used for construction? Wood, globally compose 30. Maybe before I go there, I just give you some global figures. Materials in building construction is 40% of global resources. So you can imagine to build all the properties you see globally, we're consuming 40% of global material resources. We're consuming 35% of global energy in building construction and building management. Water is 5% used globally from building construction. So these are important numbers to have at the back of our mind when we talk about sustainable construction. The idea is to find ways to minimize those numbers. What are the components that goes into construction? Where wood, steel, aggregates, we know what aggregates, it's glass, most buildings, high-rise buildings. We just saw the Google head office being built in the UK. In London, it's the same thing. You probably find this 60% glass, 20% steel, and probably 10% concrete. Copper, most of the items that go into construction, some of them are copper, concrete, 75% bricks, aluminium, and you find, depending on the kind of building you're building, there is a mix between. There are even people who are doing red bricks into their blocks as part of components to add to construction. So important to know that some of these are major components that goes into construction. As we said, 40% of natural materials entering the global economy goes into the construction industry. And what are the environmental impacts? We talked about the impact of construction in the environment. CO2 emission is the biggest component of what comes out of building construction. In green building, there's always called embodied energy of materials. It means that for every component of material, the total energy used to produce, transport, and install the material is what is called the total energy of the material. And every material, there are technical charts that shows for each material what is the embodied energy component that makes it not suitable if you want to achieve green building or you want to do sustainable construction. Methane emission is also a component. Some of them are from processing the raw materials, the materials used for construction, and these are part of the things that creates problems to the environment. Nitrogen oxide is also a component that comes out of construction. In every, as we said, materials are produced. So industrial activities that leads to construction materials production generate emissions. So we're not just talking about the issues, the impact, on the site of construction. We're talking about everything from the day you go to the, to the field to extract the materials you're going to use. You take it to factory to process them. You transport them from the factory to site, and the costs and the process of installing them in buildings. These are components that we talk about when we talk about emission, and all the things that are created it. Fluorinated gases emission. These are also industrial processes. As we said, they create potential impact on the environment. And I've talked about embodied energy already, construction and demolition. Even you find even during construction, you can construct one part and you decide that you want to change the concept or design. We're not waiting until the end of life. But even in the cost of doing construction, you can change design, you can change orientation, and you want to break one part of the building. And so those processes continue to happen as the building construction goes on. Operational efficiencies. Building operates. Typically, a building has 40 years of existence. It takes only 5 years to build buildings. There are some buildings that goes beyond 40, maybe even 100 years. But those buildings you don't take more than between 5 to 6 years. The longest, if the design is correct, is approved, and the funds are available, maybe 7 years to build a building, the tallest building in the world currently, or the one under construction. It didn't take them up to a decade to finish the building, meaning that for the life of the building, construction component is only about 10% or less of the time and resources used in the entire life cycle of the building. So, but the building has to operate. The building has to be maintained. So there are emissions that we generate the cost of operating and maintaining the buildings for its life. So these are very important components of global, impact of building construction and building existence on the environment. Indirect operational efficiency from residential buildings make up majority of 11%, while embodied emissions use of concrete still account for 6% of global warming. Embodied carbon is projected to soar to 49% by 2050. What it means is that as more building construction continues, because we expect that urbanization is growing, it's believed that more than half of the world population would live in urban cities by 2050, which means there are more constructions has to take place, including road construction infrastructure. Basically, you see rail being built all over the place in Lagos, and some other states are thinking of expanding or creating their own rail network. These are construction, happening apart from residential development, commercial, retail. You go to, there is hardly any city you go to in Nigeria where you're not seeing construction happening. And that's a result of urbanization. And that is projected to grow by 2050, by 50% of the world population will live in urban centers. And that means that the emission that we're generating will increase by almost 2 times by that time. Cement processing, talk about the importance or the components of building materials in terms of embodied energy. Renovation of building. Building generates fewer emissions than new buildings. It's believed that one of the things we've not been doing well, globally, you find a lot of abandoned buildings all over the place. We're not taking them up for remodeling, meaning that the building probably is an office. For those of you who are in Lagos, if you know the Federal Palace Hotel, Federal Secretariat in Lagos, that project is still there. That building was supposed to have been converted to residential development as far back as 2010. 2009, 2010. Up to today is not. The building is still there. Instead of building new, residential, new development, that's an opportunity, and you can save a lot of, impact on the environment by renovation and remodeling buildings rather than fresh construction. We've talked about all these greenhouse gas emissions, from all the various sources of construction, from CO2 to methane to nitrogen oxide, to hydrofluorocarbons, and sulfur exofluoride. These are major components of greenhouse gas emissions that impact our world. One of the whole essence of the conversation around sustainable construction and sustainable development and sustainable living is ensuring that we have less impact on the environment. I don't know where you guys followed, aware of the Paris Agreement and all the following arrangements that has happened over the years. The next COP is taking place in Egypt. The world is supposed to reduce impact on the greenhouse by 2%. We're still struggling with 1%. People have always thought it's only manufacturing. That's why China has always been a focus, contributing to the highest level of greenhouse gases. But construction, all of us are building globally, and so we have our own contribution. Our company, for instance, we set target for all the buildings we manage for our clients and see how we can help them to achieve reduction in greenhouse emission impact. We talked about these at the beginning, all the inputs that we talk about in terms of embodied energy and materials. So you have energy, soil transport for soil preparation in construction, energy components of raw materials, that's the embodied energy of materials, from your wood, from your cement, from your steel, all the materials used in construction. There is energy used to prepare, to get the raw materials, to turn them into productive use. That are steel rolling mills whose job is to provide steel components for construction. There's a lot of energy being used. Most of them use furnaces, to create the shapes and molds, the steel. Same thing with glass. The same thing with wood processing. So there's a lot of energy that goes into that. And we talked about maintenance and operations of buildings. There's a whole lot of cost that we generate. Believe that energy in building operations is about 40% of the total cost of operating the building. All of you are familiar with residential, commercial, or retail outlets, and everybody's always shouting about the cost of energy because we use a lot of energy to manage power and operate those buildings. Then when it comes to demolition, it's also a cost. Energy recovery, recycling, and reuse of the cost energy input in all the components from the beginning of the concept of development of the building to when you throw the building into dust, and you can see all the various impacts on the environment, CO2, dust, noise, damage to the ecosystem. We talked about that. Across all the 4 categories of operations in construction. How greenhouse gases warm our planet. This is a conversation that you can. I'm sure some of us are familiar with the impact. The greatest, component is carbon dioxide, because that's what is generated. Even human beings, we generate carbon dioxide, and so it is a lot of impact on the environment and has its ability to reduce the well-being and the welfare of humanity, and that's why the idea of finding ways to reduce the impact, on the environment. So that's talking about green building construction, its impact on the environment. Talking about greenhouse gases and the impact on the environment and the various components of building construction and how they impact on the environment. Then let's talk about green building. How many of us have understand what green building is? You can post on the chat when you say green building. What does it mean? One or two comments on the chat. When you hear green building, what does that mean to you? sustainable building, eco-friendly building, yeah, it's building that doesn't have negative impact on the environment. Thank you. So those are the summary of green buildings and why green building. I've already talked about the reason why we have to build green. The essence is that I want to reduce the amount of the impact of construction, all the things we talked about at the early part of this conversation around construction. We want to find a way to reduce the impact on building. And in one of the major components of green building, which we're going to delve in seriously, is selecting materials that are going to use for construction. Having in mind that those materials will have less impact on the environment. The second is the construction method. How you want to construct also has its impact, because if your construction method increases the use of materials, increases the use of energy, then you're going to have impact on the environment. If the items you're installing, building features and equipment, also consumes materials, energy, and water. For instance, basic components, for building use is air conditioning. Air conditioning consumes a lot of energy. If your air conditioning design will consume a lot of energy from the building, then it has negative impact on the environment. The flip side of that is that if your building design leads to demand for increased cooling, what it means is that you're designing a building that requires cooling because a lot of heat comes into the building, then the air conditioning has to work every time and has to work at a higher capacity, meaning that there's going to be more demand, for energy use and ultimately negative impact on the environment. You have water usage, across, the building. For every component of the building, water is used for, from use in the restrooms, in the bathrooms, with residential, in processing, if it's a production place. What amount of water have you designed to be used? Are you designing for maximum or minimum use? Various components of building design that ensures that you have minimum utilization of water resource for the same purpose. And then the conversation around whether you are reusing some of your water waste to put back into the system. There are building designs. It's expected that your gray water is recoverable. Your block water is one that requires a lot of processing. Your gray water, which is your water from kitchen, water from bathrooms and urinals, they are waters that you can process with minimal cost, and you can reuse them to flush your toilet, you can reuse them for wetting flowers, you can reuse them to wash cars. Whereas your black water requires extensive treatment, meaning that you can also reuse them when you treat them. And a couple of projects where designs allows for you to pipe back some of this water. You also find air conditioning designs where the wastewater from central air conditioning, which is almost as good as good water, train water, is thrown into the sewage treatment plant, and you are spending a lot of money again to treat water you don't need to treat. Water that is already good. And those waters can be recovered and be used, your restroom, they can be used to wet your gardens or flowers, or even for washing, for cleaning of the building, rather than treated water already. One of the things that is a major component or major issue with building operations and management is that we treat water, spend money and time to treat water, but we use those water to do things we don't need treated water for. Flush toilet, wet gardens, wash cars. So we spend almost 70% of the water we just use money to treat, to do things we don't need treated water for. So these are part of the component of green building. So if you see a building, do you know a building by merely seeing the building to know whether it's green or not? No, except you understand the way the building is built for you to know whether the building is green. But some already have design components that gives you an idea. A building that has solar panels on the roof. For those of you in Lagos, I'm sure you're familiar with Sterling Bank head office, where the whole building has been covered by solar panels. That already tells you that the building is green conscious. What level of green is a different conversation, but it's a green building. Building that has minimum use, of resources designed to ensure that there is minimal use of resources is green building. And it can be any sort of building. It can be residential, it can be commercial, it can be retail, it can be medical, it can be hospitality. A lot of buildings in Nigeria today that have gone green certification. We'll see some of them as we go on. So we talked about some of the components, understanding, ensuring that the materials we use. One of the things that is important for green building, I mentioned that, is what materials can you find locally? Understanding your environment and ensuring that the materials that you want to use are materials that are available within your reach and reduces, because transport is also a cost, energy of transportation. We have to import materials from China, from UK, from Europe. The ship that is going to bring it to Nigeria is also going to use energy. So there is already a cost or energy implication on your building materials. So your building, you may even do everything green, but the embodied energy of material is very high because most of the materials are not local. Site potential is very important. Let's talk about orientation. Sustainable energy use in buildings in terms of designing your building to maximize daylight harvesting, to places where you don't need lights to be installed, or if they're installed, they can be used only when it's necessary. That is very important. Also, finding ways to introduce renewable energy uses. Solar, wind, the components of renewable energies that can be introduced in buildings and can ensure that we are reducing the amount of natural energy that is required. Natural energy is the energy produced by process from national grid, but you have renewable energy that you can use. Protect and conserve water. I've talked about water. I don't know whether some of you followed shortly after COVID. Cape Town in South Africa ran out of water as a city. There was no water at all. And everybody in the city for almost a week were going around looking for water to have their baths or use in their homes. And this was a major national issue for South Africa. They had to even release water from water reserved for agri use. So it's important for us to know that water is not inexhaustible. Even as a nation, there have been conversation around understanding the amount of water we have as a nation, so that we can continue to conserve water use, so that we don't run out of water and find people. I remember when I was in the university once, we had a similar problem where the city had problems with pumps and there was no water. And I'm sure I'll show you is where most of the building design in such a way that no artificial cooling is required in the building. And so that's part of building design, understanding that you don't need air conditioning. You can build a building to ensure that fresh air optimization is allowed either through the roof or through underground or through channels within the building that allows fresh air flow. I'll just use some mechanical system to circulate the fresh air within the building. Effective operational maintenance practices, which is also very critical. As I said, the building is only exists under construction for a short time. The life of the building is more during operational maintenance. So it's important to have an understanding, and that's an area for us as a company. We focus a lot about the impact of the building we manage on the environment, on our resource utilization, what we're throwing out. We're currently working with a lot of our clients on what we call, zero waste, to ensure that we don't even generate any waste from our building, no matter what kind of waste. And that's the whole idea of sustainable, building operations and maintenance. Enhancing indoor air quality is very important. Today, a lot of commercial buildings focus is how do people feel when they're in the building they operate. For those of you who also follow what happened during COVID, a lot of companies, all of us were forced to work from home. And by the time COVID ended, the conversation around organizations is people are used to working in their houses where they feel comfortable, where they have less, issues in the environment where there are less, problems. Now they are back to an environment where they don't have control about what are the things to pay attention to. And one of the key, components is indoor air quality, not only from the medical health point of view as a result of COVID or any other thing, but also well-being, for the people who use the buildings. Site optimization, I've talked about, is orientation. It's a building in Lagos that when the building was completed, for almost 6 months, they were using newspaper to cover their windows. It was designed to maximize daylight harvesting, but building orientation was wrong. And so instead of them benefiting from daylight harvesting and also window design, because if your window design is such that it does not allow it allows heat ingress and heat to come into your building, then you generate a lot of heat in the building and you demand more cooling. And so part of the things to pay attention is to ensure that where is the sun rising and setting, so your building is oriented in such a way that there's less heat generated into your building. It can also impact your cost, because where you're also trying to design to ensure that your building withstand the amount of heat that is generated by sun, you can also reorient your building in such a way that you don't actually need to design to that level, because your building will not be exposed to the heat and the heat rays of the sun. This is part of the ideas that I talked about, maximizing fresh air within the building without necessarily putting a mechanical cooling system like air conditioning. It's a building that has been built in this form where air circulation is around the building, that there are building cores where mechanical systems like blowers are allowed to circulate fresh air, and some are allowed to take heat out. So that at the end of the day, throughout the period, you can also see the orientation of the building across the air circulation across the floors, and so allows that heat transfer, taking out of fresh air, is allowed to come into the building. Building material selection, I've talked about it, are very critical in building construction. So we just talk about a couple of building materials that are very good for construction and are environmental friendly. Bamboo, there has been a lot of write-up in recent times about the value and the strength of bamboo in construction. A lot of countries are exploring, India, Singapore, and some other countries are exploring opportunity to build fully from with bamboo, reclaim the natural wood, cork, those things that is used on wine. And I'm sure some of you have seen plastic, recovered plastics used to construct homes and places, straw bales, reclaimed or recycled steel. One of the things that is also very important in green building is that nothing is a waste. Enough cuts on a construction site can become a raw material for another construction site. So that understanding is that we can reclaim those materials and we can reuse them. We find people do form works. So instead of using wood and you're throwing them away, there are companies that have created materials that you can use to do form work, and you can reuse them on an ongoing basis. And most construction companies do that. Julius Berger 2 years ago introduced a new road construction method where if they're resurfacing an existing road, they don't discard the current asphalt on the road. They recycle it. As one of their trucks, we go excavate the current asphalt, and they turn it to raw material for the guy who is laying. So it's a continuous process. As the guy in front is picking the asphalt from the floor, the back of the truck is processing the asphalt back into new asphalt material, and is being laid on the floor as a continuous basis. These are part of the things that have been paid attention to when it comes to construction. Coconuts, they are part of the things that can become used, very strong, and they can also be used if there are things that are available. Bioplastic, stainless steel, we talked about it, recycled plastics can be used to do designs and build as many different types of building. You can read more about each of those items as I mentioned them on the slide, so that precast, it also saves a lot of time construction. It saves a lot of money. It also saves the environment, because you're not doing your cost of your energy requirement is also reduced at the end of the day when you use precast. I'm talking about cost. It absorbs, all sorts of things, and its trace remain. But today we throw them away. I don't know how many cartons of wine we drink or use as a country in a day. You can see how much of that is thrown away, but there are materials that can also be used for construction. Straw bales, why not? A lot of people don't think about it, but it's also a very good component for green building construction. Recycled plastics, I talk about it. They can be used for pipes. They can be used for cable trails. They can be reprocessed. Reclaimed or recycled wood from construction. There's a construction site close to me. I can see the amount of wood that has been thrown out during construction. I'm sure they are going to find a way to throw them away. But these are things that can be reprocessed and reused for another construction. Steel, talk about steel construction. You can find one part of the building requiring the others that can be used for another one. So plant-based polyethylene rigid foam. These are new materials that have been developed, not yet in Nigeria, but there are things available. Plant-based. These are things that are taken from people use it for furniture, furniture making, and they are very strong. We have concrete that are very strong, that have been built, that also can withstand a long, so you can, even when you are doing demolition, you can reuse them. Smart glass windows, we talk about the role of windows, glass windows in building construction. They can serve so many. Today people are using glass windows for energy as a solar panel. There are a lot of buildings globally that are doing that. They also help to reduce heat into the building, eventually reduce your air conditioning usage within the space. Focusing on local materials, I mentioned that's very important to pay attention to, because some of the things that you have in your local environment may have a very minimal impact on the green emission. Clay, for instance, is a major component. We have it in abundance, for instance, in Nigeria. In the olden days, grandparents and great-great-grandparents were living in clay houses, and also has its own advantage where its generation is very minimal. Energy efficiency, well, these are the advantages of building construction, sustainable building construction. Local footprint. One of the measures for sustainable buildings is how much energy you are using, and that's your carbon footprint. Health and well-being, talk about improving air quality within the building. The building can last because the materials are more durable. You also have increase in value. Most green buildings command more rent, more same value at a minimum of 15 to 25% than normal buildings. Even today in Nigeria, a lot of major corporates they are interested in green building offices, not just normal offices. Protection of the ecosystems and environmental biodiversity, because when you reduce the amount of resources you take from the environment, you are protected. Long-term costs and dependence on traditional energy sources. We talked about ensuring that what we build and what we consume in the building is reduced, and we don't demand as much from the natural grid. Every day in Nigeria, we say we need 200,000 megawatts. We need 100,000 megawatts. If even we determine for total number of households what's the average requirement of power, and we're able to reduce that by 40%, we're also saving money, because every day the federal government has to do for money. Now states are getting involved. They have to do for money to build power plants that will supply us energy, either for commercial use or for home use. But we're able to reduce the amount of energy we consume. Ultimately, those resources can be channeled to something else for national improvement. Productivity of people who live in the building, upgrade of assets and property values, talk about that. Green buildings has competitive advantage. See any green building today, they put a signage on their wall, green building certified. People who are interested, people want to get involved with what they're doing now. Features of green building, energy efficiency, talk about this, sustainable materials, water conservation, water reduction. There are several types of green building certifications and building use certifications from lead to hedge and in between. And these are all available. You can find more information about them. There are, green buildings in Nigeria that have been certified both in Lagos and elsewhere. Alliance Place in Lagos, and one of the buildings in the Atlantic. Pedro Parkland Estates, residential. Lekki Palace, residential. Cornerstone Tower, the commercial building in Lagos. Greenwich Student Hostel in Nigeria, MISA, the residential office. Sorry, commercial building. They are all spread across, various cities in Nigeria: Lagos, Ibadan, Abuja, and Maiduguri. And you'll find the configurations of what they've saved. The peridot is 53% energy savings. So one of the things that is measured or three things that are measured in green buildings are energy, water, and the embodied energy of materials. I've talked about each of those three components. And so for you to get certified for whatever level, especially for edge is that you have minimum of 20% across the three matrices. So 20% energy, 20% water, 20% embodied energy. And you can go up to 40% across. There are no buildings today that have 100% across the three 100% renewable energy. But there are projects being built today that we believe we tend towards that. So you have 3% energy conservation. This is CO2 savings also, because part of the things that's also measured is your CO2 emission. So you also see the CO2 savings in the building. You have student hostel, so you can see as variety of buildings as possible. You have commercial building in Lagos, it's also energy. This is the LEED Platinum certification. The buildings in Ikoyi, Lagos, yeah. So, and in the UK, there are a lot of buildings that have been certified. Thank you. Thank you very much. If you have questions or comments.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you for this insightful session. And we sincerely appreciate, sir. For our participants, if you have a question, please just raise your hand so that he is going to attend to each of those questions before he leaves, and he definitely has a lot of engagement for today. Thank you so much for this insightful session, sir, in line to green building and sustainable construction. Yeah, for those of us that have a question, please raise your hand so that you can be given access. All right, I will start from Mayowa. Mayowa, can you unmute your mic and ask your question? Can you do that in 30 seconds? Because we have a lot of people that will be asking questions. So may I request that we take 3 people at once so that you can just note their questions as they are asking.
That's right.
All right, Mayowa, you can go on with your question. Hello, Mayowa, if you are there, can you unmute your mic and ask your question?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Manuel, and good morning, Dr. Balogun.
Morning.
Yes, I want to ask my question from the perspective of biophilic designs. I quite understand that biophilic designs are a subset of green building designs. However, I have made some learnings on the biophilic development, and in one of my readings, I got to understand that when we would introduce greens in form of plants or flowers into buildings, as much as they are not within their ecosystem, as much as they are not reserved within their habitats, they do not act as carbon sinks, which majority of developers are trying to push into the public, that once we have greens surrounding buildings, they tend to act as carbon sinks. So I was really going to ask that, can we conclude that biophilic designs are not sustainable enough for green developments? And if then, how else can we modify such designs to bring out the aim of the green designs that we are trying to come up with, and then save the climate?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Mayowa. Farida from Adamawa, you can unmute your mic and ask your question. Please make it very brief.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you very much for the lectures. More light on water when it comes to construction. Thank you.
Hello, Farida.
Hello, good morning.
Okay.
I said thank you for the lecture. Okay, my question is, I need him to shed more light on how we can reserve water when it comes to construction.
Okay, all right, thank you. Shijoke from Mboyi, you can unmute your mic and ask a question.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Shijoke. Speak on.
For the reason, I want to ask, what is the rule of cement bags? I see people come to construction sites, they come buy all the cement bags, and then construction, or if they take it to other sectors to go and sell. And then also, sir, I don't know if there are companies that patronize people who gather such in large quantity, because I'm thinking of going into that, but I don't know the function it plays in construction or whether it is used in other industries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, sir, over to you, doctor.
My understanding of your question is what is the use of cement bags that people are taking away from construction sites? So it's part of recycling. Every intervention, every item that comes out of construction or even building management, they are recyclable. So there are cement companies may, just like plastic. I don't know whether you followed recently. Coca-Cola is working to look at places where a lot of plastic bottles are being generated from their products, and they want to go and take them back to factory and reuse them for their production. So the same thing happens with cement bags. A lot of people recycle them. So it's either they are taking them back. I don't have definite sorts because across the country, but my sense is that some of these bags end back into the cement manufacturing companies because they become raw materials to bag production, or they go back to the companies that produce bags for the cement companies. I know Dangote has a bag company, so some of those bags go back to those companies for recycling. They can use it to reproduce bags for production of cement. So yes, you can explore the potential to do business in that. Recycling is a big environment, depending on which area of recycling you want to focus on. But there is the opportunity in every area of recycling, depending on where you see value and understanding the value chain of that. The second question from Farida is on water conservation in construction. As I mentioned, building methods. So water in construction has two parts. One part is the water in the construction itself. So if you use less aggregates, maybe you have precast already. So what you're doing is just put it together, these precast, slabs or things. Or you're using steel construction. You're doing a lot of steel. I have a company in Port Harcourt several years ago. They did a residential estate, 700 units residential estate, and 40% of the materials used were steel. So already they've reduced the amount of water used. Typically, what other companies will have done is to do almost 100% or 90% cement or concrete construction. So you reduce your amount of water use when you reduce materials that requires water use on site. The second part is the operational maintenance of the building. If you're building design and your building installation is designed to ensure that at the end of the day, when the building is completed, the amount of water that the building will be consuming is reduced, because most of the water is either reduced in quantity. For instance, we talk about toilet fittings, bathroom fittings. We talked about recycling. We designed the building to recycle a lot of this gray water, recovering water, water harvesting. Then you have a huge reduction in water utilization on site of the building. So those are the two areas, when we talk about water construction. The last question is from Mr. Mayawa, talking about plant buildings, whether it makes sense. So there are plans. Part of the understanding first is, what are you trying to achieve? Yeah, some people do it for aesthetics. They just put plants to because every plant has components and they know what value they have. I can share a document with the organizers about 4 or 5 plants that we explored recently to see what is their ability to absorb carbon dioxide from the environment. And so in determining the kind of plants that you require, and what volume, and you also have to determine how much carbon dioxide you want to reduce or being generated in your building, then determines the kind of plants you must put in and how much of the carbon dioxide is going to be reduced at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Those are very insightful responses, and I believe it has done justice to their question. I would just like to call on Felix from Ondo State. Please unmute your mic and ask your question. Felix, you can unmute your mic and ask your question just in 30 seconds. Hello, Felix, can you speak up? We can't hear you.
Sir, I really appreciate your good morning to you. I read your lecture today. Give us, yes. Okay, sir. Good morning to you. And thank you, sir, for the lecture.
Felix, we can't hear you. Can you use your, I don't know if you're using your earpiece.
About new construction, and I really want to ask. Okay. Hello, can you hear me now, sir?
We can hear you
Hello?
now. Perfect. We can hear you now.
Okay, sir. Okay, I say good morning to you and thank you very much, sir, for the lecture. And I want to ask, because you have been telling us about how to design a new construction and a new building and estate in a whole. So now I want to ask, because we'll be going for advocacy and telling them about RecycleUp and every other people and those that are in the rural places, that the building is already designed and built already. How can we, what are the things we can tell them so that they too can contribute to the green building and reducing the emission that is being generated daily into the atmosphere? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Felix. Can we have Alex Odewole from Lagos? You can unmute your mic and ask your question, Alex. Alex Odewole, you can unmute your mic and ask your question if you are there. Okay, Abdulrazak from Taraba, you can unmute your mic and ask your question if you are there, Abdulrazak.
Hello, good morning, everyone. How are you? I'm here to recommend our leader who presented the session for his wealth presentation and wealth educative in a way that everybody will understand. My question here is that looking how today the environment is being dynamic in terms of climate change and other recycling of our activities. I need more enlightenment on how we are going to unite once we have organized a plastic. How are we going to make it? For example, where is the best place we are going to dump that equipment, that plastics and other things that change our environment, climate?
Okay, all right. Can we have Kazim to be the third person? Kazim from Ogun State, please unmute your mic. Try and go straight to your...
Good morning, sir. And thank you to Dr. Balogun for that nice presentation. My question is that recently there's been this uprise in conversion of plastics into bricks. How sustainable is this bricks? Because I've heard from some quarters, people are talking about effect of thermodynamic and some other issues that it may have a long-time impact. So I just want him to make some clarification. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, please, Okay, sir, you can respond directly, sir. You can respond to his question now. Yeah.
Thank you. So conversion of plastic for building. So there are conversations around the impact in terms of negative. There has not been any established, thing around impact or negative impact of use of plastics for building. Not that I'm aware of, scientifically or proven by any research. Plastic and the way it's mostly being used is not on a large scale. But the belief is that we're always talking about housing deficit, we're always talking about impact of material on the environment, where we're not thinking about reusing some of the materials we generate for other construction. There are a lot of research going on every other material, not only plastic. And so as of today, there's nothing to say that plastic is not good for building construction and people to live in the building that is built plastic. The second question from Mr. Brazil is about where to take plastic recycling. There are companies and there are organizations all over, even if it's Lagos. I don't know where, I think you're from Adamawa also. One of the things that I know a lot of companies, private companies, as far back as 2011, as a company, we've had conversation with companies, producing plastics. And they were asking us to bring, that they were actually short of raw materials. And when you hear short of raw, meaning that there is abundance of waste in plastic, but there are companies who are struggling to, to get those materials into their factory to produce, plastic, all forms of plastic you can think about that we consume today for food production, food preservation, food use. So there are companies that are in our environment that use some of these raw materials, for production, and they'll be happy if we, and you can, even have conversation at your state with the state Ministry of Environment, if there exists, or Ministry of Local Government, and see how the state can get involved in, creating a system for waste recycling, plastic recycling, especially in your environment. And I believe there are a lot of opportunities around that. The last question is from Felix about people in the rural areas who are already, focused on sustainability to some level. They're not affecting our, but there are a lot of things that also happen in the rural area that can focus on, sustainable, living. Basically, what conversation I'm going to have with them is not about recycling alone; it's about sustainable living. And there are things that they are generating as waste. So they are farms. There are products from their farm that when they take it in and use them, become waste, and those wastes are thrown away. Can those wastes be reused as composite? Can they be converted to composite? They become fertilizer rather than wait for produce fertilizers from government. Some of the things, some of their food waste, some of their fruit waste, some of their items from homes can be turned into to fertilizer. So that's the easiest and the fastest way you can have conversation with somebody who is already in the rural environment. And so instead of waiting for government to give them fertilizer to produce for their farm, they can create their own manure by using compost. Even they have animals, if they rear animals, animal dungs are also part of the things that can be used for that. Even grass, for instance, part of the things also you do. They have maize, rice, all the items, all the trees, all the things come from sugarcane. They can go back into the soil as composite and turn into manure, so they can be used for the agri use. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for these wonderful responses. Please, before you go, sir, this is the very last set of questions you're going to be taking. I know you definitely have some other engagements to catch up with for the day. And our participants, I would like to inform that the tracking and evaluation form has been shared. Please endeavor to fill it before you sign out of this session. And for those who are having issues joining the WhatsApp community, a link has been shared. Also use that link to fill it. And once by the end of today, they are going to add you directly to the general platform. I would like to call on Elizabeth from Ogun State. You can unmute your mic and ask your question, Elizabeth. Please make it very brief. Elizabeth, if you are there, kindly unmute your mic and ask your question. Okay, all right, all right. Speak on, Elizabeth, we can hear you.
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity. Some of us have heard about this sustainable building and everything, and we want to know how we can get the minimal knowledge to apply to our everyday lives. Some of us have lived in buildings where the light, even in the afternoon, is very poor and all these things. I think if we know the basic knowledge that we can apply to our everyday life, it might really we get these things. Many of us cannot maybe people that are experts in this area that can design the building and all that. But for everyday Nigerians, how can we get this knowledge and apply? Now, the other thing is, okay, this brick made from clay, the clay soil, how sustainable is it? And then the fear with the bamboo that you mentioned in the presentation that I've always had is, I don't think bamboo lasts for long compared to other woods. Really sustainable. Is this something that we can use here in Nigeria, considering our temperature, our climate condition, and everything? So how do we bring this knowledge home so that tomorrow, if one of us is building this or that, we can at least apply the minimum knowledge to have a better life for ourselves? Thank you very much.
Aliyu from Kano. I hope your question is related to this session. Please unmute your mic and ask your question briefly.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, sir. Thank you for the excited session. Like, my question is that regarding the economic situation in this country, as a professional, sir, please, is there any strategy that you think we can use to address this issue of sustainability? Like, is going how it's going in the world? That's my question, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aliyu. Jerome from Benue State, you can unmute your mic as a last question. Sorry, we might not be able to take others. Jerome, you can unmute your mic, please. Hello, Jerome. If you are there, kindly unmute your mic and ask your question. Okay, would like to take Omole from Abuja. Omole from Abuja. Omole Samuel from Abuja. You can unmute your mic and ask a question if you're there.
Good morning, sir. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Speak
okay.
on, please.
My question is concerning glass recycling, which you mentioned for construction. Are there companies here in Abuja that, I don't know if you might recommend for us, that usually collect these glasses for recycling for construction? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Omole, for that question. I would like to hand over to Doctor as he provides answers.
Thank you very much for the questions, those the previous and the current one. So I'll start with the first question because it's extensive, so that I can share some personal perspective about how do you implement sustainability from as an individual. As an individual, from as far back as probably 2001, I've never thrown plastic away out of my house into the waste bin. I've always segregated my plastic as far back as 2001 or even earlier. The second is today, as an individual and also as a business, we are implementing what is called zero plastic waste. In our office, we don't allow anybody to bring plastic into our office. We have dispensers and we're giving everybody bottle. So you take water from your dispenser, so there is no waste that goes into the. We're actually not giving you disposable cup. We're giving you a cup, a mug, a higher, all those jugs that is sold in the market. You can wash it on a regular basis and continue to use it. You can sterilize it. So you can use it for 6 months, 1 year. So you're not disposing anything in terms of water. And we use dispensers, meaning that we can always refill our bottles. So nothing in terms of water or plastic is being generated. We also minimize the amount of PET drinks that comes into the office. So even once in a while we do, but we minimize. Before our plastic bin, we have a segregation segregated bin in our office for plastic, for paper, for food waste. Plastic bin used to be, within 1 day is full. Today, in one week or even 2 weeks, the thing is still the same level. And so those are practical, day to day. The second thing about, lighting, you don't need to, if you live, most of the things, you go to people's offices and homes, you find they have blinds, and they use the blinds to cover everywhere, then they hang the lights at the same time. So why do you need to put blind when during the day you can have daylight and save the energy? The thought is that most of us have freezers in our home, and this is something that I also learned recently. We own our freezer 24 hours a day, 365 days a week. Frozen foods are in the freezer. When we want to use those food, we take them out and defrost them, either by pouring water on them or put them in microwave. We're wasting energy. Whereas we can program our freezers to work like a fridge, meaning that there's a maximum number of hours that they work, 5-6 hours a day. After that, we switch it off. The food remains warm, cold, but they are not frozen. They can be eaten. So you save a lot of energy. These are simple, practical things that we can implement at home without waiting to go to school to learn sustainability. But you can learn more online as you want to understand more about the principles around sustainability and green building. Now, clay is a material that we have used, and I mentioned it before. Clay is not new to Nigeria. If you've gone to your village, maybe most of us have, you'll find that our grandparents and great-grandparents who live in village, they live in what we call it mud houses. They are clay. They drink water from clay pots. I remember growing up, you don't need any fridge. You put water in a clay pot, it's as cold as water from the fridge. So clay is useful. Whether it's last long, yes, why not? You even find places where people fire clay to ensure they increase the strength so that they can use it to build. And today you find a lot of companies using clay as part of building construction and not just bricks. So yeah, clay works. Bamboo, the strength of bamboo. So I just give an example. Major construction today in Nigeria, you find out themselves modern companies, when they want to do any building above one level, they use bamboo as their scaffold. If bamboo is not strong enough, would anybody want to stay on bamboo to be doing construction, spending 6, 7, 8 hours carrying cement and working on it? So bamboo is very strong, and there is a science. You can go online and do a research on bamboo. There's been a lot of write-up about the strength and durability of bamboo for construction. So it's been proven to have what it takes to withstand whatever capacity. And it's a construction method that determines the strength of any material. So bamboo is good. Sustainability and economic situation, that's what we're talking about. So if you reduce, and one of the things we're also trying to promote, this is happening not only outside Africa, also some countries in Africa, where companies are saying that you can bring if you do single-use item, if you eliminate single-use plastics, meaning you can take your plastics, and I did that when I was working in the industry, where I was selling my recycling items and using the money from there, to pay my waste bill. So there are opportunities to convert some of our waste to income. And what we need to do is, and a lot of companies are interested in that. I said there are people who are looking for these raw materials, and they'll be happy to see opportunities in that. The other thing is that the less material we consume, the better we are. So let's talk about your home. You spend 40,000 every month on energy. If you change your way of running your home and start reducing the amount of energy you use in your home, you can reduce your bill by 20,000. So you're already meeting your economic reality. Transportation, is a major component also. We spend a lot of money, and we also impact the environment through transport. There are a lot of other options for transport. People use bicycle. Where you are staying is not far from where you are staying. You can see a video on Google Head Office. The important thing is, how do employees get to work? What's the proximity from residential area to office? These are part of the conversations that are being had to see how do you reduce the impact on both sides, the economic impact and sustainability impact. And it's the way we work, the way we operate, and the way we use materials that speak to that. The opportunities I mentioned on creating business economy from sustainability. Glass recycling in Abuja. Unfortunately, I don't have any name of a company that I can give you, but I'm sure you can do a search online. And if I find anything, I'll make effort. I'll share with the organizers, and they can share with you guys on the platform. Thank you very much, everybody, for the opportunity, to the organizers for inviting me to be part of your session. Very happy with the quality of the questions and the number of participants and across the various countries in the United States and Nigeria. Thank you. I wish you all the best remaining part of your program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you. Let's celebrate and appreciate Doctor for this wonderful engagement. It's been a wonderful session and a lively session with him this morning. And, ever from the very first day of this program, it keeps getting better. And today was indeed super loaded. Thank you, sir. We are so grateful for this knowledge you've shared with us. We appreciate every part of it and know that each and every one are going to take to that effect and also be an agent of change and sustainability. We sincerely appreciate you on behalf of the leadership of ADEV Africa and SDSN Nigeria. We want to thank you for the time you spent this morning dedicated to this session, and we look forward to having you in our future engagements. Thank you so much, Dr. Balogun.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Have a blessed day and enjoy your weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a wonderful weekend as well. Dear participants, we believe it's been a great value for your time and an engaging session indeed this morning. And we are ending today's session. It's in a grand style, yeah. And all thanks to Dr. Balogun for the amazing and insightful session he has led with us this morning. Before we end today's call, please, I would like to reiterate again, for those of us that are here to fill the evaluation form, if you are still asking for evaluation form now, you are wrong, except you are just joining the session. Maybe someone can just help them to share it again. It's been shared thousands of times. We'll use that word. We've shared it over and over again, but we'll drop it again for you to not miss out. We don't like leaving anyone behind. So please ensure you fill the tracking and evaluation form. And if you are having any technical issue joining the WhatsApp community, please, it's very, very important for you to use that link that was shared recently to also fill out your information. Then the program managers are going to pick it up and they will add you directly to the platform. And also to inform that you will be having your assessment tomorrow evening. It's a 30 minutes, it's meant to be 30-minute assessment, and that's between 8 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Yeah, so please ensure you don't miss out. I know that 8 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. is not a party time. As when they said 8 a.m. now, you could have said, yeah, you're having a party, you want bed, this and that. But please ensure you set your alarm, set your reminder. And the questions is going to be centered around things, the workshop series from day one till this present workshop. This recent workshop we've just concluded. Please, I would also like to inform, regarding the resource materials, check your, just look at your email. You are going to receive an email shortly, which is going to detail the learning resources from the very first workshop series till today. And you also, the email is going to detail the YouTube links for each of these workshop series, so you can revisit all the session. This is going to be shared with you via email, so it's important to check your email. And hopefully the program managers can also share with you on the WhatsApp platforms. Yeah, so I believe it's been a wonderful session, and this is giving a close to our workshop series for this program. And the next phase is the assessment and knowledge evaluation, after which we are going to commence the phase 2. But I would like to take some questions. Some people are still asking for evaluation form, my God. All right. So, okay, those of you that are just joining, I can see some people that are just joining the session. They are just joining. I can see 169 now. It's been on 150 since morning, except if you are joining on YouTube before. but we are going to share again for you to ensure you feel and you don't miss out, because attendance is very key. I want to have your feedback. You want to know what has changed, what are the new things you've learned, and what do you look forward to learning. And definitely we can get your feedback as well. So we'd like to take one or two questions. Should, in case you have any question, I want to lower, please, if your hand is up initially for questions to Dr. Balogun, you can lower your hand now. I would just like to take questions specifically for maybe you're having any concern or you have any related concern regarding the next phase or regarding the timeline or regarding the assessment. So please, you can just unmute your mic. We are going to do this in 10 minutes and we end the call. Okay, but please, if your question is not related to this, you can lower your hand. Nicholas from Enugu, you can unmute your mic and ask a question.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Nicholas.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. My question is regarding the advocacy program that will be coming up shortly. I want to know if we have any kind of branded items like face cap and t-shirts apart from the introduction letter.
Okay, all right, thank you. Advocacy program, all right, that is noted. And Rashidat, you can unmute your mic.
Okay. Good morning, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know if this is related to the section today, but I want to ask, like, do you know any company that is up for plastic recycling in Abuja?
Plastic recycling.
Yes.
What do you want to do? Do you want to supply or you want to supply plastics to them?
Yes. Like, because I have someone like dealing with plastic and would like to, because the person always trash it. So I just want the person to always get it recycled, probably just like the first
okay,
the first lecture we had that it will be recycled.
So what you can do is I can recommend two organizations in Abuja to you. I know Stranger one, then there's this other organization, I'm going to confirm their name, though they just started recently, but I will check their name and share with you. So you can get to, if you can't get to me directly, you can get to any of the program managers and confirm that. All right. Can we?
I'll do that. I'll message you on WhatsApp.
Yeah. Musa, please unmute your mic and ask your question. Musa, can you unmute your mic and ask your question, please? Please be your brother's keeper. You can get to reshare the link for the evaluation form for them. Thank you, Abdullah. Thank you for resharing that. Abdullah has just reshared that. And you can also get to fill the form before you leave the session. All right, Abdullah is not asking. Okay, Abdullah, your hand is up. You can unmute your mic and ask your question, Abdullah.
Good morning, sir. So thank you for the wonderful session and this opportunity. So my question is on the second phase of the training, where we are expected to run some kind of advocacy and awareness program. So is there a specific mode we are meant to use? Does it have to be physical? Can we run a webinar, a seminar that's online? So, and does that count as part of the phase, the work for that phase?
Okay, thank you for that question. So we just like to take two more questions. I want to respond to all the questions at once. Naji, can you unmute your mic and ask a question, Naji? Hello, Naji, you can unmute your mic.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning, morning.
My question is there any recycling plants in Telugu here? If there is none, can we start up something? And if you look at trying to acquire machineries for recycling, it's very expensive. Is there any way the government can assist us on that?
We are not looking for we are not waiting for the government to assist us. Well, I'm just saying that jokingly. All right, I'm going to respond to your question, Naji, recycling plants in Enugu. All right, thank you for that question. And the last one we can have I'm looking for a lady. Okay, but in that sense, Samuel, I think you've asked your question, or do you have another question? Samuel, I believe you've asked your question. Okay, Abel, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate you so much for this wonderful training. I really appreciate you. Thank you very much, and thank you to all that have taken part. My questions are as follows, please. Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So the first question is this: you said the assessment, the area of areas we'll check on will be pasted on our, will be sent to our Gmail, where we'll go through from the one to this time, so that we'll be able to answer the questions that will be given to us. Now, the questions that will be given to us tomorrow at 8:30, as you said, is it going to be, we are going to log on to Zoom here, then from there we'll get the link to answer the question? That's the first question. The second question is, after the training, everything is done, and we want to continue the advocacy in villages, under what umbrella? Because I deal on hard drug issue. I'm an advocate on hard drugs. So tell people the negative effect of hard drugs. So we go to villages, we have my ID card, have everything. So when we are going, we go under the name of our organization. So if, let's say this one now, we are going now, and after the days, and we want to go and advocate on this, the recycling and other things we have learned, under what umbrella?
Okay. All right, thank you. Let me take the last question. Rashidat, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
All right, sir. So my question is, I just want you to brief us on how the advocacy is going to be, because I think this one is quite different, and I want you to brief us on how the advocacy is going to be. Is it going to be an environmental sanitation or something? Or we are going to go to a particular group of people and then do the advocacy?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that question. Someone asked that question earlier too, in line to advocacy and awareness. And I would like to use your last word to answer you. You can clean an environment for people and go back to that same environment tomorrow and meet it the way you before you clean that environment. So definitely the very first important thing is to sensitize them, educate them about the need to keep to a clean environment. And mostly what they dispose in the environment can be recycled, it can be reduced, it can be reused, and it can be recycled. So that's your language of communication. And we say that for the awareness and advocacy campaign, it's not just there are diverse initiatives which you can get to share. And sorry, yeah, in addition to what you're also going to receive in your email is just the prototype of what your submission proposal is going to look like. And like I said yesterday, it's a one-pager that has been prepared for you, and yeah, it easily guides you and you can get to respond to it. But it's not limited to educational outreach. And someone asked that, can it be a webinar sort of? Or yeah, you can have a virtual sensitization, which is in as much as going to be very, very effective. And your group, you have a particular group of people you are targeting. And you can have a media presentation, maybe on radio, maybe on TV, in as much as on partnership, you are not paying for it. So we are not expecting you to spend your money on that. And please, even it's something you can achieve on your own, because we believe that this is a learning curve for each and every one. I'm happy with the question. Someone recently asked that after this program, they would like to continue under which umbrella? So the answer is you can still continue under the umbrella of this RecycleUp Nigeria initiative, because each state is going to have a community and the community lasts forever. So it's not like you are done with the program and you're exiting the program. Yeah, there's a community for each state, and which you keep having over and over again. And hopefully the community will also have new cohorts, so who are going to be joining you and becoming certified member of this network. So I believe I've answered the question. And please, yeah, like I mentioned, it's just the main thing is you present yourself in a very official manner and acceptable manner. We are not asking you to break the bank to achieve whatever you want to achieve. It should be based on partnership and within your reach. And I will also say that the modality for advocacy I've mentioned, is also in the guide. You can see different options. You can check the program brief that was sent to you. And someone asked about recycling plant in Enugu, that if there is no recycle plant, I'm not sure, but I believe there is going to be a recycle plant in Enugu. But if there is none in Enugu, you can start something. And thank God, that's one of the major things Recycler is bringing on this program, whereby we can have recycling hubs in each state, and they are going to set the hub up, and they are going to definitely even provide every equipment. So those equipment that you think you are waiting for the government to provide, there's an organization that have put a structure in place to provide this, and most especially for the successful participant of this program. So, modality regarding assessment, the assessment is going to be virtual. You are not coming on Zoom for the assessment. And for the assessment also, there is a link that will be shared with you. So it's a quiz which you are going to answer. And I don't know what it looks like anyway. So the academic team will definitely reach out to you about information and guidelines regarding that. However, for phase two major things, the advocacy campaign and also case study development. And definitely, they're also going to share a template in line to case study development, which we have to kickstart 10th to 25th of October. And maybe I should just give a brief of what the case study development plan looks like. What you're expected to do is to survey and conduct research, checking out organizations, countries that are doing well in line to circular economy and sustainable waste management, and prepare your own development proposal for your states. What can it look like? What can we achieve in KB State? What can we achieve in Enugu State in line to circular economy? So each state are to do this, and you are to also note the names of every participant that are part of that process. So I think it's over 10 minutes, which we said we are going to spend on this, but the general community is always open. Please, we appreciate you keep your questions there. You can drop your questions there, and that will be addressed over and over again. Thank you, everyone. It's so good to Water platform, please. WhatsApp platform, how do we join? We've already shared the link. If you have challenge, let me see if I can reshare it. If you have challenge joining the WhatsApp platform, please just fill this form. The program managers are going to add you. Oh, thank you, everyone. It's been a wonderful session this morning. We wish a wonderful Friday merriment and a very productive weekend. All right, see you the next time. That's the next session anyway. I know that the next virtual session will be in November. That's for the Climate Innovation Bootcamp. Circular Innovation Bootcamp. However, the next engagement is tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. Please, it's very important. Don't miss the assessment for any reason. Have a wonderful day, please.